From the Evening Standard in London, I'm David Marsland, and this is The Leader. With videos of empty supermarket shelves popping up on social media, there's maybe a feeling among some of, here we go again, and where's the toilet roll? The pandemic started with panic buying. Store bosses are really hoping that doesn't happen again.
Well, what we are seeing is limits on the availability of certain items in certain parts of the country because retail operations are being impacted by an increasing number of staff needing to self-isolate.
That was Helen Dickinson, head of the British Retail Consortium, speaking on BBC Breakfast. Problems are being caused not so much by the number of COVID infections themselves, but by the NHS app pinging people whenever they come into contact with someone who has the virus. More than 600,000 alerts were sent in the week till July 14th, and those people are supposed to self-isolate. That's causing staff shortages, and that's causing all sorts of issues for businesses around the country. Our political editor Nicholas Cecil's here. Nicholas, how serious is this becoming?
Well, at the moment, the problems are not that serious. There are some shortages in some shops, for example, in fresh food produce. But the supermarkets are saying that people shouldn't panic and that they are deliveries being made. The business secretary, Kwasi Kwarteng, he was saying that he didn't recognise these reports of widespread shortages. But the issue is what happens in coming days and coming weeks. And the boss of Iceland, Richard Walker, he was saying to the public, don't panic, but to the government, do panic, because you've got to sort this crisis quickly. The latest figures showed that there were 618,000 people were pinged in the week to July 14. If these numbers continue escalating like this, then there'll be growing shortages.
It's not just the supermarkets that are being affected by this, though, is it, Nicholas? There are lots of businesses that have been hit. What's the Mayor of London saying about it?
Yes, Sadiq Khan made quite a dramatic intervention today. He basically told of his rising concerns over the pandemic disrupting London's public transport, food supplies and bin collection services. So he's saying that these absolutely crucial services to so many Londoners could be under threat if the situation gets worse.
So what can and what is the government doing about this app? Can they change the sensitivity of it so that maybe not so many people get pinged?
The government aren't planning to change the app and its sensitivity. That they've looked at that and considered that, but their latest position is that they're not going to do anything there. What they're doing today is later on today, or at some point today, they will put out a list of sectors where people in these sectors, for example, the food supply chain, will be exempt from the most stringent self-isolation rules. So they'll be relaxed for these individuals. But again, the business secretary, Mr. Kwarteng, he was stressing that this will be a very narrow list of people. So it's not going to be hundreds of thousands, we expect, because the whole point about the app is that it's one of the most effective tools at limiting the spread of the virus. And if the government decided to relax it for hundreds of thousands of people, then that could just fuel the epidemic in Britain.
And then you also have those smaller companies with maybe just a handful of employees suddenly facing severe staff shortages because one or two people are having to self-isolate.
Yes, in many ways, the pandemic is likely to affect smaller companies more than bigger companies, because if you work for a big company, if you lose some of your staff, you can normally get round to some extent. But if there are two or three of you in a team, and one of you is off, there's suddenly that's 33% of your manpower disappearing. And interestingly, this morning, one company, a food distribution company called Bidford, was saying, we just can't work like this, so we are not going to tell our staff who are pinged to self-isolate. They even said introduced a testing regime, and if staff continue to test negative, then they're saying that they should come to work.
And there have been calls maybe for the army to be brought in to fill in the gaps. Is that likely to happen, Nicholas?
I think at this stage that's unlikely to happen. But Tobias Ellwood, who's the chairman of the Common Defence Select Committee, he told the Standard this morning that Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, should call a meeting of Whitehall's Emergency Cobra Committee today, and that as part of their agenda they should consider bringing in the army as a last resort to stop the pandemic chaos growing even more out of control.
There's more on this story in the Evening Standard newspaper and online at standard.co.uk. Follow the live blog to keep up with breaking news. That's the Leader Podcast. We're back tomorrow at 4 p.m.